Let's talk about Westchester County. Rob, come on up. I happened to have a family emergency last week, and I had to go to Westchester County. I had to go to Hartsdale. As opposed to driving, the first day I went up there, I was there 5 days in a row. I saw Westchester in different aspects, driving around, unfortunately, to a funeral, to a cemetery, to other things. But one of the greatest things about going to Westchester County last week is when I had to go up there to get to Hartsdale, I went on the train at Grand Central, and it took me 31 minutes to get to Hartsdale. I mean, that opportunity, that convenience, that importance is really helping Westchester County. So what are the major things taking place in Westchester? I think you have it down in like 4 bullets.
There's nothing going on. No, I'm kidding. How's everybody? Good morning. Who's from Westchester?
Wow, big crowd today.
Good. Everyone else from Brooklyn?
It's the Ulster and Putnam County crowd over there. We have the people in the Rhineback are in the back too.
That's it. Well, the rest of you, I'm waiting for you to move up to Westchester, and we'd love to have you. Anyway, Michael, thank you. Thanks for having me here this morning.
5 points.
Well, for those of you who live in Westchester, you probably have seen a lot of transformation, a lot of things happening, which is a really good thing. There's a lot of cranes in the air in White Plains and in other areas of the county, building a lot of housing. And the reason why we're building a lot of housing is because the job market is pretty hot. And so you build it and they will come, but you also have opportunities. So we're seeing a lot of investment. We've had 40,000 new private sector jobs created in the county in the last 7 years. And what's emerging is sort of not the old kind of jobs, but the new jobs, the new frontier, if you will, biotechnology, which is amazing how it's grown. And it's something we've really focused on like a laser beam to work with some of these companies. And they're bringing private capital in, and they're building like crazy. Regeneron, which is one of the biggest biotechnology companies in the country right now, the founder and CEO is from Westchester, lives there, and has really made a huge investment to the point where now our biotechnology sector in Westchester accounts for 20% of the entire field of New York State. 20% of all biotech jobs in New York State are now Westchester-based and growing, and that's a great thing. So when people come in, and they're coming in at all age groups, but this is a really emerging field for young and smart people, they need a place to live, and so that too is happening. So you see a lot of that at market rates, at affordable rates, really something for everybody.
But something which is important, which I failed to bring out on the show before, it's become very expensive to live in New York City. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize the different price for rent for somebody. There are many people taking the reverse commute and coming in today, living in Westchester County and working in the city because of the savings.
Yeah. So if it's natural, right? If you're driving and you're getting close to empty and one gas station has unleaded for $3.99 a gallon, and the other gas station across the street is like $2 a gallon, $1.99, which one are you going in? And if anyone here says $3.99, you're lying. So,
but that was the Gulf station on the expressway.
No, the one on the Hutch.
On the Hutch.
The Hutch in the Bronx. You ever go there? First of all, there's a Dunkin' Donuts. It's like $5 for a donut there. But a gallon of gas is like twice, and I don't know why anyone ever pulls in there unless you're on fumes, but that's another story. But anyway, so we are about half the cost for a business to do business in Westchester as opposed to New York City. And what I mean by that is your rents for even an office park or Class A space would be less than half the cost of doing business in New York City. So if you're a business in the city and you can split up your business and still be in the region and accessible to 3 commuter lines within Westchester County, an airport, HPN, in White Plains, Westchester County Airport, which has a lot of flights. You've got highways, and with the airport, you don't have the Van Wyck to deal with. So you've got everything right there in a setting and a sector that is growing. Great schools, a very talented workforce, and what I mean by that is we are literally, statistically, the most educated county in America. Only the District of Columbia has smarter people, and you see what's going on in D.C.? Does anyone buy that? 47% of the people in Westchester over the age of 25 has a bachelor's degree or higher. So we've got a very talented workforce, and now businesses are recognizing that. But just getting to the profit motive, just getting down to the bare brass tactics here. If you own a company and you're in New York City and you're paying $100 or $200 a square foot or whatever the case might be, would it make sense to explore a market within the market in Westchester that has everything you want at half the cost, far more than half the cost in some cases? So they're looking, and they're starting to split up part of their divisions and starting to split up some of their office space, and it makes sense. And so we're here to help. Billy Mooney, who is with us, is my economic development director. We have an industrial development agency, a local development corporation, and our Office of Economic Development. He'll be here all day, so please stop by our booth and ask. But we can also help your company if you do want to relocate or move into Westchester County or start a business.
With regard to that, you have certain major developments. A number of years ago, New Rochelle had seen more, but I believe right now there's a RXR development plan for Yonkers and also other developments in New Rochelle. What type of incentives are you providing to these developers?
Well, one of the things I try to do is to come into New York City and meet with the developers, meet with the companies, and make the pitch to the county, but also just leave them with information that they probably didn't understand or didn't know about Westchester. First of all, it is a very evolving county, which is a great thing. We're now the fourth most diverse county in all of New York State. And people probably don't know that, but of our 1 million people, we are the fourth most diverse, only behind Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. We're tied for 4 with New York County, Manhattan. So if you're looking for the diversity, if you're looking for things happening all over the place, then Westchester is really an opportunity. The city of White Plains has kind of transformed itself over the last 10 years. If you haven't been to White Plains in a long time, you should just take the 30-minute ride on Metro North and go to the #1 commuter station in all of Metro North. We now have almost as many people coming into the White Plains train station as are going out, coming into New York City. And that's because you walk off the train station and you've got a city now that is vibrant. You have a city that is growing with regard to jobs, good paying jobs, but also with restaurants and nightlife. And so people want to see that. A lot of the professional teams, the Knicks, the Rangers, even Yankees, live right there because there's some really great places. And so they're kind of part of the scene as well. So there's a lot of opportunity, but one of the things as I do when I come into the city is try to meet with, you mentioned RXR, Scott Reckler, and others, to let them know that there are opportunities. So in regards to RXR, for instance, they are looking at a major redevelopment in New Rochelle. They are looking at a major redevelopment in Yonkers and potentially Mount Vernon. So there are properties along train stations that have never been used or underutilized that now everyone is giving a second look because, number one, New York City is a market that's on fire, but that could burst at any point. And there's nowhere else to go other than up, so people are looking to come out to Westchester.
Another interesting situation that's happening in Westchester is the redevelopment or redeployment of space. For example, the General Motors facility.
Yeah.
The Reader's Digest facility right now, I believe they just broke ground on renovating it, the former headquarters over there. But so what's happening on that?
Yeah, I mean, Reader's Digest, for those of you who remember the old magazine, Reader's Digest World Headquarters was always listed as Pleasantville. That was their P.O. box, but they were really in Chappaqua. And they sold, and the building is being redeveloped to mixed use, but part of that will be affordable and market-based housing. You also have, in White Plains, 2 major housing developments going up right near the train station. You have an old mall, literally a very old mall, which is being completely redeveloped. So there are a lot of things happening in and around the county.
Now, with regard to that, what about some of the large office buildings that have been around 287 and so on? There's been a redevelopment of that and some ideas to convert them into residential, correct?
Yeah, you know, if you've been along 287, in Westchester, the Harrison area, White Plains area. These are developments, office parks that were built in the 60s and in the 70s. And so these buildings, though nice, are very old. They were built at a time when, Wi-Fi, what the heck was Wi-Fi? And so they need to be redesigned. They need to be refurbished. And you've got developers that are very willing to do that, but also recognizing that in the past, when they made these buildings, one tenant would occupy the whole building. That doesn't happen anymore. With everything like WeWork's being done, where there's a different design today. People want to work in different ways. And so that's being understood and respected and redesigned, the loft feel, or subdivided for different tenants. But some of those old buildings are totally being repurposed. Fordham University now has a campus there. You've got Sloan Kettering, which is a wonderful option for people.
Sloan Kettering came, it's the same facility, same operation.
Yeah.
They took 150,000 feet for a master,
Yep.
center over there.
Lifetime Fitness, when the old Gannett Journal News building was knocked down and this idea for a massive fitness facility for the public came, everyone's kind of scratching their head, really? Does this work? It's been phenomenally successful.
But in addition to being successful, part of it was successful because of what the county did by providing industrial development bonds and agency.
And that was a Minnesota-based company that we decided let's work with it. They're willing to put a lot of money into redeveloping this, and let's be part of that. And so we have to look at everything carefully, but we've tried to put our dollars to work, and we've had very successful. We're starting to approach almost $2 billion in redevelopment that we've been able to help, along with 17,000 jobs. Is that right? So, I think government can be a big help or a big hindrance. And I, generally speaking, tend to be on the side of let government sort of get out of the way and let the private sector do what they need to do. But, there needs to be rules and regulations for a fair playing field. But in some sense, government can help by fostering an environment that welcomes development, that welcomes these kind of ideas. And that's what we've tried to do. And then when it takes government to sort of push something over the line, score that touchdown, then we can, generally speaking, help and do that.
As I was saying before about transit-oriented developments, one of the opportunities is that what has happened in Westchester, especially in White Plains, and what's happening now in other markets over there, that is so important because people can get to New York City in case they're working in the city. They don't have to have a car. They can have the bicycle. You see much more of that happening today?
Oh, yeah. Literally, when the train pulls up to White Plains or some of these other locations, you've got people coming off with their bicycles, walking right to work, and that's a great thing. And so that's one of the things that we've tried to do is to recognize that core around where everything can be built. And so that's what's happening. It's happening naturally. Like I mentioned, these two major housing developments that are going up right next to an Alliance Bernstein building. So you've got your white collar, you've got your blue collar, you've got some really big companies that have been around for a long time. And we were fortunate that PepsiCo, their world headquarters is in Westchester. IBM, MasterCard, the list goes on, and that's a great thing. We want them to stay. We're encouraging them to stay. But then we also have these startups that, might happen from an idea in someone's basement, and we're encouraging them to use their capital or borrow capital and start it up in the county, and that's where we can help too. So if there's anyone in here with that bright idea, then come see us. 5 minutes? Oh, no, we're going to go on another hour.
So where are the people coming from? Okay, is Westchester trying to get some people? Stanford was poaching a number of people.
Yeah.
Greenwich over there.
We're poaching back.
Okay.
It's fair game. If they're going to try to go after our businesses, we think, especially with look, New York is the highest taxed state in America. And I was just at a forum the other day, and the argument was that good or bad? And to me, I'm scratching my head saying, who the heck thinks that's good? Especially if you're trying to live here or trying to own a business here. And so with New York State being so highly taxed and overregulated and literally just chasing businesses away, we've got to be competitive. Connecticut did come up with some solutions a period ago, but then they X'd them out by raising all their taxes, and so it evened out, and now people, hedge funds and others, saying, well, why are we going to stay here? It's like water, it's going to seek its own level. There's a reason why there has been a mass exodus out of New York State. It's the #1 state for out-migration. And with that out-migration comes capital, comes money. And they're taking their money and they're going to Arizona, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, all these states that are booming for the right reasons. It used to be we would go in the winter down to one of those beautiful states, but we'd always come home. Now it's one way. It's U-Haul out, because it makes no sense to live here anymore if we're going to be chased out, harassed as a business, overtaxed. They get you up until you're dead, and then they get your family for an inheritance. That's got to stop. And so those states figured that out, and that's why people are moving there, and that's why they're doing very well.
A couple of other questions. One subject that you just brought via outward migration is, and it's happening in Westchester, is an inward migration of people who went down to Florida, okay, and want to be closer to their families right now. So they're moving in, and Westchester County has a number of assisted living and long-term care facilities.
We do, and like other areas, we've got an aging population, and if you're in your 70s and 80s and still healthy and want to live independently in the house that you raise your family, God bless you. But oftentimes they don't need that space. They might be, a widower or a widow, and at that point they want to find somewhere else to go and sell their house. That turnover is also good. It gives new people an opportunity. And so the assisted living and those kind of facilities, all different spectrums, some that needs more care and others much more independent living, we encourage that. The problem that we have is in New York, it's a home rule state, which is good and bad. And generally speaking, I totally support that. The people closest to their government should determine, as opposed to bureaucrats in D.C. figuring out who's supposed to live where and how a community is supposed to be made up. But we've got a patchwork of local governments and layers upon layers. And so the development process tends to take far too long. Average time from the permit process and completion is 7 years. That's insane.
It's better than Long Island, about 23 years.
No, but that's 7 years in New York as well, and it's totally insane. And you go to Texas and these other states, you go through a process, you go through fair hearings, you get done, and you're built within a year or two. And shouldn't that be, because from year 1 to year 7, your costs have risen exponentially. People have come and gone with regard to politicians, and so everything gets changed, and it's crazy. It's not the way to do business. It is what it is, but so when you go to try to build, you're dealing with a local community. Some have been doing a great job. You mentioned before along 287 and the repurposing of those buildings. White Plains and Harrison has been fantastic in moving the process along, welcoming and working with entrepreneurs and developers. And then there are other communities that want nothing done anywhere. And
with regard to that, there are certain parts of Westchester, and this is very important. Affordable housing is very valuable. Talk to me about what's happening within the counties and the towns with regard to affordable housing.
Well, and affordable housing takes on all different terms. Affordable housing means different things to different people, and there's no right way or wrong way to build and have affordable housing. It could be, high-density apartments for rent or co-ops. It could be a mother-daughter, a basement apartment. There's a lot of different ways, but the point is, the county has won a lot of awards for this, has worked very diligently through the years. My predecessors, our administration, and hopefully my successor at some point will continue to help and foster affordable housing. Like I said, it comes in different ways, and the ones that are being built right now have sort of a mixture of market-based versus affordable on different income levels. But all that is needed so people can move where they choose to move and where they can afford to move. And then the accompanying services and jobs have to be there, otherwise, why go?
Okay. So,
You take questions or no?
to you. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, can you talk anything about the federal Department of Housing?
The lawsuit, the county was sued before I got there, and the previous county executive settled with the Justice Department and HUD that requires the county to build 750 units of what's called fair and affordable housing. By HUD's definition, it's low income, and it has to be done in 31 eligible communities deemed by the 2000 census, so mostly white communities. We have been building those. We are just about finished with that. The settlement ends at the end of this year. County had to put $51 million minimum into it, along with some other things like marketing that we're doing. Where we have come to loggerheads and where I have not agreed with the federal government, and we've been back and forth into federal court, is when the federal government has demanded that the county go beyond what we agreed to, beyond what was in the settlement, in the contract, to do all these other things, which, by the way, would have been extraordinarily expensive, would have caused us to raise taxes, which we have not raised taxes in 6 years, with a 7th coming up. And I refused to do that. And, you know, it was unfortunately the federal government's utopian view by bureaucrats sitting in some office in D.C. figuring how perfect the world should be and that we should be, quite frankly, the experiment. And that's what they called us, the grand experiment. I very much put a line in the sand and said, no, we will do what we're supposed to do, whether people like it or not. And we've been able to succeed by doing it cooperatively with communities. Look, you try to build, you try to put a fence up in your property, people come out, neighbors come out. Building housing and anything is always controversial. But we've been able to get through this very successfully, working cooperatively, not what the federal government wants us to do. They want us to go in with like a billy club and beat up anyone who opposes it or tries to speak out against it. You know, that's the right of free assembly and free speech should never be put aside because some ridiculous bureaucrat in D.C. says so. So we'll continue to do that, but we will also continue to fight for the people of the county.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.